and we started a church. Okay, there's a lot more to it than that, obviously, but that's what we did. And I tell you, God loves small churches. I mean, I'm sure he loves big churches as well, but he does love small churches. If you're in a small church, brilliant, okay. So out of the four of us, there was me, there was my wife Jill, a teacher there, and there was a recovering drug addict, an ex-prisoner, and there was also, that's one person, and there was also his partner who was a social worker, but an ex-prison officer. So basically, in our genes, in our DNA of the church, is offending, is addiction, is caring for people, okay? So we've just seen God build our church, and it's called Gateway Church Northumberland. There's a plug. So if you ever fancy going to Northumberland, and even if you feel God might be calling you as we speak to come to Northumberland, we're up to about 40 people now, and those values are still at the core, still at the heart of what we do. And God has built us together as a church, so that's really good. And so here today, there's going to be people who have got full-time jobs working in addictions, aren't there? And there are people who lead things, there are people who are working in things, there are people who are church members from Woodley Baptist, that's right, isn't it? And people who are interested in, or just starting out, and how do we help people with addictions, okay? So I hope to sort of help to inspire all of us, really, and equip us. I can't remember what the strapline was, empowerment or something.
Connect, encourage, equip.
Connect, encourage, and equip. There we go. Okay, so that's what we're doing. We're connecting, I'm going to encourage you, and we're going to be equipped, hopefully, a bit more. Feel free to ask questions. Now, that's always a dangerous thing to say. All right, so, but feel free to ask questions if there's something more clarity on. I mean, it may come up later, but that's fine. Okay, that's fine. So that's where I'm coming from. So helping to lead a church, going through all that, but also I've been a psychiatrist, I've been a GP, I've been a substance misuse specialist, and I work in the prisons now. So you might think he can't hold a job down. Variety is great, isn't it? Isn't it great to change, to do things, to do different things? It's fantastic. And each one builds on the other. So that's great. So the experiences that God put you through, that you think, I didn't particularly like that experience, but actually you draw on it later, because he does something with you if you're open to what he says. So that's where I'm coming from, really. So we're going to see if the technology works now. Yes. Okay. So for want of a better title, substance misuse services. Can we change the quality of substance misuse services? Can we make a difference? And I'm going to, because there are more than just addiction specialists and workers here, I'm going to broaden this out and say, actually, when we talk about substance misuse services, we're talking about drugs and alcohol in the church as well, okay? And how are we going to actually deal with that? Deal with people with those problems who will be coming to church, and we'll find out why we're going to be needing to deal with them more and more in a moment. I think a lot of us know this already, but just for an overview, I'm just going to look at how substance misuse services work. Now, this may be very familiar to some of you, maybe not for others, and it's going to be slightly different where you are, and this is made for England, but it might be different in other places. It depends what setting you're in as well. Okay? So, what have we got in substance misuse services? We've got these things called commissioners. Have you heard of commissioners? Yes, they're the ones who actually commission things, funnily enough. And they're the ones with the money. And actually, so all these things around here, they'll be looking for money for commissioners, all our partners at the back here. All substance misuse services need to be commissioned. Some can run on voluntary donations as a charity, and that's fine. But statutory ones in particular are looking for commissioning money. So commission. So in England now, it's the local authority who commissions substance misuse services. So that's your local authority. Okay, so that may seem a bit odd, what they've got to do with health and things, but that's what's happened recently, and we'll come on to why that is. So they commission, they may not have that much expertise in substance misuse services, okay, but that's now their job, and they have to commission them. And at the moment, it's like a 3 to 5 year rolling cycle, so in your communities, Your substance misuse services for people with drug and alcohol problems will be recommissioned every 3 to 5 years or so. Okay? And you can imagine what a hassle that is. So if someone's recommissioned, you spend a year settling down as a service, you spend a year doing something, and then you spend a year worrying about what's going to happen in the year after, because you might not have a job, and there might not even be a service. Okay? So commissioning is a big thing, and luckily, thankfully, there's a bit more recognition now that people need longer-term commissioning rather than 3 to 5 years. So you've got your commissioners, you've got the Care Quality Commissioner. I notice there's someone's going to talk about the Care Quality Commission later. And the Care Quality Commission regulate the services and come and inspect them. So services should be safe, caring, responsive, effective and well-led. That's the acronym that they use. And they want patient choice and all that sort of thing to be taken into account. And they inspect substance misuse services to make sure that they're up to scratch, as they think up to scratch means, which we make. We've got the evidence base. What's the evidence for helping people with drug and alcohol problems? Is there much evidence? Yeah, there's quite a bit of evidence, but maybe not as much as you might think in some areas. So there's evidence. So we're talking about, if you've not seen, if you're a professional, you should look at the Orange Guidelines, which I'm sure a lot of people are aware of. The Orange Guidelines came out 10 years ago. They just come out in the last few months, a revised version. That tells you all you need to know about helping people with drug and alcohol problems in a service. All right. So it's actually quite a good document. It's 300 pages long, so it's going to take you a while to read it. Okay, but that is the sort of standard that drug and alcohol services around in this country will be working to. There are other evidence-based, there are reports, there's a Professor Strang report that's been very, very important recently, and we'll come on to why that is in a minute. So that is in the mix as well. So you've got substance misuse services themselves. So in this area, there'll be, I don't know who runs the substance misuse services in this area? Inclusion. So okay. So there'll be quite, and elsewhere it'll be people like CGL or it was Lifeline, but they collapsed this year. You have other people who run services, Turning Point, people you may have heard of. So all these people are usually big charities vying for business, but they have to run the substance misuse services locally, and they're commissioned by the commissioners to do that. They're inspected by the Care Quality Commission, and they try, apparently, to work on the evidence base. So you've got all these people involved in substance misuse treatment. So what happens in the middle here? What happens in the middle? Who's in the middle here? It's the user. It's the patient, the client, the person, whatever you like to, please choose your own term, because everybody likes a different term. Okay? This is where the actual work takes place, all right? This is where most of us are, in here, in the middle, right? Okay? And that's quite a small space compared to all the other things that are going on around. And because you've got people pulling in all directions. You've got the commissioners, you see? So the commissioners have been thinking, actually, we want people in and out of treatment as quickly as possible. So you're finding the local services, something called successful completions, are very to the forefront, have been to the forefront. That means basically get people in and out of the service as quickly as possible. Does that ring a bell with anyone? Yeah, so successful completions, that's what commissioners want. They want to show value for money to their constituency, which is the local authority, to their elected members, and they need to know that they've got value for money, they're making a difference. Okay? And so that for them, it's in that treatment, they're cured. So how many people are cured of addiction in 6 months of treatment? Any guesses? Virtually none. I mean, it can happen, and that's great. But addiction's a chronic, relapsing illness. There are different ways of describing it, but at the end of the day, it means it's something that's with you a long time. It's like depression. It's a chronic, relapsing illness. It tends to come back. Sometimes it doesn't, but it tends to. So the fact that they're concentrating on getting people out of treatment as quickly as possible directly clashes with the evidence base now, which says actually the bottom line is you're safest in treatment. If you've got an opiate problem, not a heroin problem, you're actually safest in treatment. So Prof Strang in his report was saying that, and now it's in the Orange Guidelines, and hopefully the commissioners will take notice. But you'll have seen in the local community people have been wanting to be pushed out of treatment too early. Okay? And the evidence now is pulling against that and saying no, people should be in treatment for as long as they need to be. And you shouldn't be judged on how quickly you get people out of treatment. And that's a really important concept. And you've got the Care Quality Commission, so they're pulling their direction. They've got to justify themselves to the government as being worthwhile. It sounds very cynical, doesn't it, all this? And you're looking dismal, you're looking like, oh no, But actually, the Care Quality have their own agenda. They need to show the government they're inspecting things, but often it comes down to the wrong sort of lino when you're consulting them or something. For those, and it really does. So that's not so good, but they do try, and they really try to improve quality, and that's fine, okay? So these things are all something that's pulling against it, and the substance misuse services, they're stretched, because we've seen budgets for community substance misuse services being gone down and down over the last 5 years, okay? And in some areas it's up to a third have been cut, the budgets, and sometimes in contract as well, for local drug and alcohol services. And if you want to get residential care, I was the medical director in a residential treatment, so 2 residential treatment centres, and they both closed down because there was a lack of work, because there was a lack of commissioners willing to fund residential treatment, which is essential for a lot of people. So substance misuse services are pushed. They find it difficult to give individual treatment. I don't know what your experience was, but they tend to try and put people in groups now rather than individual one-to-ones. There's a drive for group working rather than one-to-ones, and that's not what a lot of people are wanting. This is all a preamble to what we need to say. But in the middle, that gets squeezed. So in the middle, there's a service user. That's where we are, that's where the service users are, that's where we're trying to work, which gets squashed and squashed. And there are other people involved as well. There's Public Health England. Okay? So there's Public Health England, which quickly disappeared. Which they might. Is that easy? Oh, yes. So Public Health England used to, pre-2012, provide the money and the guidance for substance misuse services. Okay? Now they just provide some money to local authorities, which is supposedly ring-fenced. But in practice, it isn't, because local authorities are running out of money, aren't they? Your council hasn't got any money. And so they're cutting all sorts of things, and believe it or not, drug and alcohol services are not a statutory and mandatory service. Local authorities do not have to provide local drug and alcohol services. Okay? So what they're going to cut, if they don't have to do it, they're going to cut those, because they need to do the things that they're actually mandated to do. So, there we go. Public Health England now does not have any teeth. They think, oh, well, I'm the guardian of this sort of thing, public health. But it isn't, because it doesn't have any teeth. It can't do anything. Money's gone to local authorities, to the councils, and they can do what they like with it, and that's what they're doing. So you've got political pressure. So the government, who saw the heroin programme on the BBC? Okay. So you've got political pressure, that is exerted in various ways. So you've got things like political pressure through the media, or get everybody on heroin-assisted treatment or not, which actually is a side issue. You get the latest government report, which has just come out, about the misuse of drugs and the policy and the direction of what they're going to want to do. Frankly, it's anemic, I think. It doesn't really have much in it. But what it does have in it is the statement that in 2019 there will be no more public health grant money to local authorities for drug and alcohol services in 2019 in April. Local authorities will be expected to fund everything out of local taxes, basically. Okay? So that's a little sentence in there. What do you think is going to happen in 2019 if they don't get any extra money and they have to fund it out of local taxes, including business rates and things, because they can keep? I have to tell you that local drug and alcohol services are going to absolutely, they may well disappear. I've heard local commissioners in the northeast, I've heard one saying, well, we may not even commission drug and alcohol service anymore. And this is a real wake-up call. We need to know about it. We need to be prepared for this, you know, as professionals and as a church. Because where will people go for help? What happened to the food, with the food banks? Where do people go? Who runs the food banks? A lot of churches. This is our opportunity, folks. So okay, I've been a bit downbeat, but now this is the opportunity for the body of Christ to step up and actually get equipped and actually make a difference, because local authorities ain't going to do it unless something changes, unless we make a real outcry about it, and that's the danger, and that's what we need to do. So political pressure is to basically main government wash their hands of drug and alcohol services. It's not a health problem anymore, it's a local authority problem. They can get on with it, and it's not going to work. And then, of course, government pressures like the war on drugs and all this sort of thing, well, that didn't work, did it? Okay? Political pressures like, well, actually, a lot of us think, actually, if you decriminalise personal use of drugs, it's a controversy, right? Okay? If you decriminalise personal use, personal possession, you'd actually do a lot more good than harm. Do people... Okay, hands up if you think we should decriminalise personal possession of drugs. See, that's interesting, isn't it? Okay. But it's a debating point, isn't it? I work in a prison now, so every morning I go into prison, Durham prison, and you get loads of people coming in with drug and alcohol problems. Half the people who come in I need to see for drug and alcohol problems in Durham prison. Right? That's the local remand centre. So, and a lot of them are in, you know, for offences that are drug-related, or possession, or whatever, okay? You're criminalising a lot of people, even for possession of drugs. Actually, there's no point in sending them to prison for 2 weeks, or 4 weeks. It just, A, is not a deterrent, B, it doesn't work, and 3, C, it's such a waste of resources. The amount of, you wouldn't believe this unless anyone works in prison. Yeah, the amount of resources, are you going to be speaking later? Yeah, so I'm preaching, yeah, but you know what I'm saying? The amount of resources to get someone into prison, through prison and out again, is huge. It's not just the cost, it's the professional time, all this sort of thing. Absolutely amazing. And we should be really thinking about whether the victims, as it were, the people who actually end up being addicted, should actually be punished in prison for that. But I was going to say that, so I'm really sorry. That's just something to think about. Okay? Special interest groups. You've got special interest groups that they affect all this system here, right? So you've got people like, let's say, the 12-step groups. Okay. Is anyone here sort of represent? People don't represent 12-step. People are keen on 12 steps here. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Great. Brilliant. So I think I've found in my work that about half the people I help do well with 12 steps, which is great, and half don't, and that's fine, because you've got other things like smart recovery, it's like 12 steps, a bit different. It's a peer group, peer sport, and that's great. So about half and a half, and it's certainly worth a go if you want. But the thing about 12 steps is it's managed to get itself in here. So the whole question about recovery, which we talk about, it's a big buzzword for a few years. What is recovery? You know, is recovery abstinence, and is that 12 step? Is that what should happen, or is recovery something bigger, which is about actually living life better? It's about doing things like having housing, and relationships. It's about being a functioning member of society. It's about having health. It's about not committing crime. And whether you're still on methadone, it doesn't really matter. Yeah, it's controversial, isn't it? It doesn't really matter if you're still on methadone. But if you're a 12-stepper, you might think, that's still a psychoactive substance, and it's not a good idea to still be on that. You know, that's not really proper recovery. There's a debate to be had. It's a really interesting debate. That's what's going on in a minute. Does recovery equals abstinence equals 12-step? Or is recovery about bigger than that? 12 steps fine for some people, half people, that's great. So it's not a competition, it's just the way of thinking about things that we need to just be aware of and know about. What is recovery? What would you define recovering in drug addiction, drug and alcohol addiction to be? It's an interesting question. What is it? So you've got those, you've got other special interest groups who are keen to say what they think. You've got people who want to have injecting rooms, okay, you've seen that on television. So you've got injecting rooms for people who bring their own drugs to inject them, so there's actually evidence that that's might be a good idea in city centres where there's a lot of drug use, so that's good, right? You get people who are advocating, like we saw on television, heroin-assisted treatment, where people actually come and get medical-grade heroin, diamorphine, and inject it in special centres. Okay, there were trials, there have been trials on this, been in the northeast. It's very expensive, right? It can help, but it's all based on the people who go into heroin-assisted treatment need to have had optimised oral methadone, for example, treatment. Okay. Now you can see the problem here, can't you? If you're gonna reduce the amount of services and the quality of services, you're not going to get optimised treatment. But people are pushing that, going to the end. Oh, let's get people into heroin-assisted treatment. So there's a debate to be had there. These are all live issues at the minute. Should we be giving drug addicts heroin and injecting in a special centre? There's some steam building up for them. But the evidence is it's effective if they've had proper maximal other therapy first. Financial and commercial. So the substance misuse services, the big ones, they're multi-million-pound organisations, over 100 million turnover. Okay, so there's money in it, but they're cut to the bones. They cut staff down, they de-skill staff to the lowest what they can, and that's the danger. That's the danger, because they want to win contracts. If they don't win contracts, then they don't actually survive as organisations. So you've got all those sorts of interests. You've got people who want to charge outrageous amounts of money for naloxone packs to take home. People who make that, which is that opiate antidote. So if someone has a heroin overdose or whatever, and they're given this injection, then the short story is you can reverse the overdose. Okay, but again, we were trying to get it in the prisons on release, but they're charging a lot of money for these. The people who make them. So they've got their money to make as well. So, and there isn't the money in the system. So, another bleak picture, okay? More and more community services are using naloxone, which is great, okay? And that's excellent. So, that's something to be aware of. So you might come across people, if you actually work in services, who have these naloxone packs, so they're injection packs, who can help others if they see them overdosing. And that can be life-saving. So there we go. So the middle section is where the actual treatment takes place, and that's what gets squeezed, when all the organisations pull in their own direction. The quality of the actual one-to-one care, okay, so what actually happens in the middle isn't really measured, if you think about it. If anybody works in the service, the Care Quality Commission don't come in and watch you face-to-face, do they? Okay, so you might get a bit of supervision with your supervisor, whoever's mentoring you, etc., etc. But you don't get that formalised in terms of what quality. CQC standards are only a proxy for what goes on in the consultation. They don't actually measure it. And successful completions, as I've said, have been what the commissioners are interested in, not how well you actually treat the person themselves, to be absolutely brutal. And it's not been working well for many individuals, okay? So you'll have seen drug-related deaths, they've gone up 50% in the last 5 years. 50% drug-related deaths. I mean, that's outstanding, you know, that's appalling, isn't it? So it's just not working. And funnily enough, 2012 is when the Health and Social Care Act came in, which devolved treatment to local authorities, to the councils. Now, I'm not saying, of course, that it's anything to do with that, but actually, the government have looked into it, of course, and they will tell us what they want to tell us, and they say, well, actually, people on heroin are getting older, drug users are getting older, they have more morbidities, many things wrong with them, things that it's not just for the people with addictions have, heart disease, lung disease, all the rest of it, okay? And they're getting older and they're dying more, okay? That's what they also say, the quality of the heroin is getting better, so more people are overdosing. Now, that's not what I've heard, okay? Certainly not all over the place. What they don't want to say is actually, since we introduced the Health and Social Care Act and devolved care from health into local authorities, councils, things have gone wrong. And if you look at this graph here, there you go. So things were up and down. We're doing all right, and actually, this is the death rates in England and Wales, drug-related deaths. And so you've got 1996 down here, and 2016 on the right. Okay, so what you see is, for men on the top, in 2012, there you go, it's started to go really rising again. Women have been rising anyway, but that's going up as well. So there's an extra 50% from here to there. Okay, now you can draw your own conclusions, but I don't think that's going to get better that quickly if things go on the same way they are now. Okay, so what do I suggest? That's all been doom and gloom, and we're here to be equipped and inspired and all the rest of it. I want to say that it is possible, right? It is possible for us to make a difference, okay? Whether we're working in full-time in addictions or whether we're church members or whatever, okay? So I think we need to refocus on the one-to-one interaction that goes on, right? Because that's where it actually happens. And we need to find a simple and quick way to measure that quality. And it needs to be reliable, it needs to be reproducible, and it needs to demonstrate progress. Okay, so if we've got a way to do that, then in our services and in churches, indeed, we can look at what happens, we can observe it, we can measure it, and then we can say, well, we've got this learning need, we've made this progress. And that's what we've been trying to get to over since 2008, when I thought of this idea in the first place. So, but it also needs to be cheap, doesn't it? It's no good as proposing something that needs a lot of money. So, the bottom line is what do patients actually want from a professional? What does someone actually want from someone trying to help them? What do they want? What do they need? Okay. What do they need? They need the person to have competence, and they need to have compassion. Right? And what I'm saying is that these sum up everything that really is needed, the core of what is needed when we're interacting with people we're trying to help, in whatever circumstance we're in, okay? And we need to demonstrate competence and compassion in everything we do, right? Everything we do. Now, if you think about it, one without the other doesn't work very well. So, if you're just compassionate, but you're not competent, what happens? Yeah, disaster city, potentially. You can get taken for a ride, you can get drawn into things you shouldn't get drawn into, because you feel for the person. We've all been there, it happens in churches all the time. If we're not equipped, it's really important. If we're just compassionate, which we are, particularly in churches and as Christians in healthcare, we can go down wrong roads because we haven't got the competent bit of it. Okay? So if we're just compassionate, it's not enough. It's good, but it's not enough. Okay? Competence, that's well known. It's intuitive. You need to be competent. But if you're just competent and you've got no compassion, what's that going to seem like to the person who's trying to access help? It's not going to be good, is it? They're not going to want to come back if you're just cold, if you say, I'll do this, that, and the other. No, if you don't show any understanding, which we'll come on to, and care for the person, then that's not going to work either. So competence is well known. There's measured standards, there's a Danos framework, there's all the things that you know about if you're working. There's models of care. okay? And you get qualifications and all the rest of it. Compassion, it's increasingly been recognised as actually of vital importance in health conditions, when they've hardly ever looked at the person and they've hardly ever listened to them, right? And I'm not joking, in the last few years, okay? So this isn't a given, right? That the people are compassionate at all. And we would all have had experience of dealing with people who aren't compassionate or even competent, right? So did you try to understand the issues from their point of view? Or did you leap in and say, well actually, oh yeah, I know what it is. Yeah, so yeah, I understand all that. Or did you actually listen to what they're telling you about what the issues were? Did you let them finish? All those sorts of things. And did you then try your best to help them? And that would look different in different settings, okay? Within the context of the competence part, okay? So that's a professional, that's the observer. So someone sitting in. It's always challenging to have people sitting in. So if you're starting off, or whatever setting, it's always worth having people sitting to have a look. And this is a similar check-up for those people sitting in. So, did you think the professional knew what they're doing, etc., etc.? Do you think they seem to care about the service user? And then you've got, from the service user point of view, very important, obviously, never forget the service user. Okay, how competent do you think the professional was? Do you think they seemed to know what they were doing? Did they seem to know what they were doing? Do you think they knew enough about the issues you brought? Do you think they were able to, and knew enough to be able to help you? Did you think they cared about you? Did they try and understand your important issues? And do you think they tried their best to help? We're not looking for perfection here, folks. It's not perfection. You know, talking about trying and helping and all the rest of it. That's what people need. So it's further explored on the website there, okay, and we shall be up again in a minute. And there are links to articles, letters, comments that have been in the press, etc. That might be interesting for you to have a look at. There's a Facebook page as well. If you want to like it, that would be great. You can contact me. And if you want to pilot this approach in terms of, particularly in the checkups, and using them in your situation, please let me know and I'll send you copies of the board. And just tell me how you're getting on, because this is the first stab at it, okay? So they may well need to be refined. So I'm looking for help here, because this is something, if we can do, and others, I believe we can roll this out on a local and then a national basis, in terms of a basis for healthcare and other things as well, because actually, there's the website. It's a bit boring, and sorry about that. Here's an opportunity to change the service. We're strapped for money, but we can do this. We can do this in church, okay? If we can train ourselves up to be competent and compassionate, then we're going to have a real good foundation, okay? One of the things that I just wanted to say there, and it doesn't really fit, but that we found as a church, growing from 4, it's 1,000% increase, you know, to 40. That it's not about them and us, right? It isn't about them and us, because them become us. We're not doing things to people, and this is really important, church, you know. We're not doing things to people. You know, we're in community, we're family, because the people who were them, we're trying to help, actually, because they become us, then they have gifts and abilities and things that we have no idea about. We have no idea. I was talking to Joseph, where is he? Joseph the biker. There you go, right? About people coming to know Jesus out of addiction, giving their life to God. And then they're so effective in bringing other people in. They're so effective. They, you know, those who've been forgiven much, you know, thankful much and all the rest of it. But in that period, you know, it's so important to realise that we're not us and they're them. Okay, I'm labouring the point, but it's really important, okay, because we're all family, community together. So this is a big opportunity here, right? And it's not just interactions like that, it's other. Imagine if your organisation you worked in used those principles in management? Who's got a manager here? Yeah, a few people. Right, even worse question, who is a manager? Oh, right. Oh, managers, don't let me start with managers, but I won't start managers. So, what if managers use these principles to manage the people they're managing? What if managers were competent? What if they were compassionate? And what if they were both at once? You know, that's really, it sounds basic, but it's, if we stuck by this ethos, people and organisations would be changed. I would say, let's equip people with this ethos, let's encourage people in it, and let's transform where our situation is. And we need to be leading in this, okay? You know, we're all leaders, whether we think we are or not. I'm not a leader. You are a leader because people are looking at you and they're seeing what you're doing, they're seeing what you're saying, they're listening to you, okay? And if you can lead in it by example, that's going to be something that will transform where we work, where we live, all the rest of it. So let's make that difference. And if you think about it, just to finish, it's always good mentioning Jesus, right? If you think about it, Jesus was the ultimate example of competent compassion. He was so competent, he knew what he was doing. He had the power, he had knowledge, he knew it. He knew what he was doing. He wouldn't be deviated. He wouldn't put up any nonsense from the Pharisees. He wouldn't put up a nonsense from Peter and say, oh, you can't do that. Get me behind me, saying he was competent, but he was compassionate. The most compassionate person ever. Because he loved people, he cared for people, he met them where they were, he understood them, he helped them, he healed, he blessed them. You know, and even people who did things wrong, like Peter, he restored him. So you can be competent and compassionate. We need the power of God. Well, I believe we need that. We need Him. We need His Spirit to help us in this. But here we are. Here's an opportunity to make a difference. I suggest we grab it. Thank you.